Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Central Middle School Building Committee to order at 7:05. If you will, please join with me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for attending. My name is Tony Turner, and I'm the chairman of the Central Middle School Building Committee. And as we have always done at the beginning of our community engagement forums, is we want to say thank you for being here. This meeting is for you, and we do want to hear from you. I'll be talking a little more about the agenda and the QR code for the Menti system here coming up very shortly. But we really want to emphasize that our real mandate tonight is to hear from you after we update you in several specific areas. Next is the building committee. We have met now almost for 2 years. Countless number of meetings. We stopped logging the meetings and the hours. And I want to be sure to recognize any members of the committee. We have several on the panel here. In fact, the first three ladies to my left, your right, are members of the committee. You'll be hearing from them later. Any committee members in the audience, if I could ask you to stand, please, and be recognized. Anyone at all? We have two there. Thank you. And we have several committee members online. Next, I would like to update you on a key additional professional. As you know, up to this point, we have had CSG as our owner's rep. We have had Turner Construction, no relation, Turner Construction as our construction manager at risk, and of course, the SLAM Collaborative as our architect. The committee decided last week to expand that professional coverage. We've decided to add as an additional owner's rep, the Stanford-based firm. No, I'll say more about that in a second. The company of Jones Lang LaSalle, Peter Rader, who's here tonight. Peter is a senior vice president who works out of the Stanford office, which is what I wanted to say, Peter. And we want to be very sure to say thank you. We're looking forward to your joining the team. I hope you have a very strong seatbelt. It is a fast ride, and there's a lot to do. Two more things. One is I'm announcing tonight that this is going to be my last meeting with you as your chair. I've decided that in the next few days or few weeks, I will be stepping aside as chairman of the committee. My intent is to stay on the committee, and at the end of the day, it's really because of time demands. As I look today at the amount of time that it's taking to manage relationships with stakeholders, I also have parents who are quite ill and they're long distance, and I'm their only caregiver. And at the end of the day, the project demands have just gotten to the point where I often scratch my head and say, can I continue to be effective? So the timeline and all of that has to be worked out with the committee, and we will. But I want to be very sure to stay in place, at least for a short period of time, to ensure that we have a smooth transition to Jones Lang LaSalle, to make sure that there's a smooth transition with the chair-elect, and to make sure that as we continue to bring on stakeholders, that they know exactly how the committee operates and so forth. So with that, let me now bring us to or more closely on the agenda as to why we're here. Lately, we've been getting some clarity on things, be it design and otherwise. We're beginning to see some things get finalized. We have more information on safety, which is a key component of our presentation this evening. And as we go through the agenda, and I'm going to turn it over in just a moment to Jim Hoagland, who's sitting to my immediate right, to talk about the first item on the agenda of building and site design update. This is a very, very key piece of paper. If you didn't get one of the handouts at the door, you can. It's also on the screen here. and we utilize what we call the Mentimeter system, so that you can use your smartphone to target the QR code and then go online and submit your questions. We also have, and for me, I do it the old-fashioned way, we also have pencils and index cards at the door that if you would like to write down your questions and turn them in, please do that. Although this is not a public forum, meaning where we hear from you and we respond to questions, we've had 2 of those. We do want to take your questions. Maybe there's a possibility that we can answer a few tonight if they're quick and easy. But all of your questions will be responded to. We've done this in every community engagement forum, meaning that once we get your questions, the professionals will have a single document that they'll be answering the questions on, and then we will be posting the answers to the Central Middle School website. So you'll not only be able to see a recording of this meeting, but you can also look at the questions there. Okay, enough of that. Jim Hoagland, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So we're going to go through a couple of slides. I see a lot of familiar faces out there in the audience. We're going to go through. I'll highlight the building and site design. The design team has made some great progress over the last couple of months. We last were in front of you back in January, middle of January, and a lot has transpired. We've been in front of regulatory commissions. We've done a lot of presentations. We've had a couple of perimeter neighbor meetings. And I just want to reiterate that these forums are incredibly important to us. The feedback and questions that we receive from you really help guide the project, and we find it really helpful and useful. So I'm hoping that you all partake in the Mentimeter and get your questions out there, comments. It'll be greatly appreciated. So what you see on the screen right here is the overall site plan. You have north to the right of the screen, and it's just an overall view looking down at the building and fields. Just to orient everybody, Stanwich Road is on the top part of this drawing. You have Orchard Street at the bottom, Indian Rock Lane all the way at the far left-hand side. So one of the things that we've been focusing on, the design team's been focusing on, is the safety, the overall safety. And it's been a recurring theme in all of our presentations with the regulatory agencies. As we go through, the site plan is developed, and that safety theme has really informed many of our decisions. So I'll kind of run through and highlight the overall organizing elements of the site. You can see coming in off Indian Rock Lane, we're anticipating reusing the existing curb cut where the cars do come in on the site. So that entry will essentially remain where it is. We've widened it and pushed it a little bit farther to the west. We did listen to some of the neighbors. There was some concerns about that intersection and the width of it and cars coming in and out. So we were able to push it a little farther to the west, which is up on this drawing. And avoid some conflicts with some driveways directly across the street. I think it gives us a little bit more turning space on Indian Rock Lane, and it also facilitates that nice, long, meandering boulevard that comes in and allows for over 60 cars to be queued, parent drop-off coming in off Indian Rock. We think that it's really going to alleviate a lot of the traffic issues on Indian Rock, currently backing up all the way out onto Orchard Street for pickup and drop-off. I think the simple move of extending that long parent drive all the way from Indian Rock to the back portion of the site where the building is located, I think was a huge move, and it really informed the overall organization of the site and the building. And I think there's a real nice connection now as people come in, visitors come in, enter the site, come through that long curving driveway with the parking sprinkled, kind of spread across the site. We were very conscious of trying not to develop these enormous parking spaces or parking lots, seas of asphalt. So I think the team's done a really nice job taking advantage of the driveway that has to exist there and then utilizing that drive for the parking immediately off of it. The general organization of the site, the new building you can see in white has been pushed back to the north into the existing hill. We're building it on the existing play fields, and then the phasing, which I think Tim's going to get into a little bit, was a big reason why things ended up the way they did. So with us building the new building to the north side of the site, The existing building will remain where we're showing these play fields, and we will flip-flop in phase 2. So we'll tear down the existing building and build the new play fields where we're showing them on this plan. You can also note the optimal orientation of the athletic fields. Their home plate is southwest and center field is northeast. That was a desire of the rec department, athletic director, staff at the school. They really wanted to optimize the orientation of these play fields, especially the baseball and softball field. Right now, the existing fields are oriented in almost the exact wrong direction. So the number of hours that these play fields get from Parks and Rec and school use is phenomenal. I think Parks and Rec told us that they have over 1,600 hours of scheduled games through the seasons on the baseball and softball fields. You can also see the rectangular field that overlaps the bigger baseball field. That allows the spring sports to happen simultaneously. And then in the fall, they can use the rectangular field for soccer and still utilize the softball field for either softball or Little League. So we felt that the orientation of the athletic fields really optimized the overall use. And Parks and Rec was firmly behind that too, that approach. You can also see some of the other things that are labeled. One of the things that was important to the design team was clearly separating the bus traffic from the parents that were picking up and dropping off. So I mentioned the parents come in off Indian Rock along that long curving driveway. They do a loop in front of the building, are able to drop their student off and then circle back out and retrace their path all the way back out to Indian Rock. The buses, their circulation is going to be much different than what it is right now. Currently, the buses come in off Indian Rock in their own separate loop. We're proposing that the buses come in off Stanwich to clearly separate the two circulation loops. And we were very thoughtful about how the sidewalk works on site to clearly bring all the students safely from their pickup drop-off points into the main entry. And I'll also mention that around the back of the building, the far right-hand side, the north end, there is a fire lane that the fire marshal did require. So that loops all the way up and around the back side of the building. And by pushing the building into the slope, that actually helps us gain some exit at the second level, the second floor. I'll show you the floor plan, but the students can exit from their academic pods directly to grade on the second floor on the north side of the building. Moving on to just a real quick overview of the floor plans. I think those of you that saw the plans in January won't see much of a difference here. I think the building is clearly organized, and we've been working on trying to tighten up square footage and just make it as efficient as possible while verifying all the program requirements through the Board of Ed and their educational specifications, which is something, that becomes our marching orders, and we've been following very closely. So the general organization of the building on the first floor, it was a very strong desire to locate all those community use spaces on the first floor so we could create some real easy access from the front portion of the building. You can see the gymnasium, cafeteria, auditorium, and the media center. We're anticipating for a lot of community use. They have their dedicated entry on the left-hand side. You can see the main corridor that runs north-south through the building right up and through here. So this is an after-hours entry that gets you into the auditorium, the gymnasium, cafeteria, and the media center. During the course of the day, when the school opens in the morning, students will use the main entry. And if you think back to the site plan, that circle that at the end of the parent loop, we're trying to get the students as close to that main entry, the front door, as we can. So the loop comes in, students will come directly in a secure vestibule at the main entry. The buses are looping in on the right-hand side of this drawing. The students will get off the bus and walk straight across into this main entry. And that's something we've talked through different scenarios with the principal and other school staff to just understand operationally how they want the building to run. You can see the blue block is the main office. So all the admin offices, the school nurses located there. There's some counseling offices, and that was very deliberate. We placed that on the corner of the building so that we had adults looking through windows, eyes on the street, so they could see students getting off the buses, out of parents' cars, and coming in that front entry. And it's really the main control point. So once again, safety is paramount here, and it's been a resounding theme, through the entire process. Mentioned the cafeteria. The kitchen is located up behind that. So you can see the service area. There'll be service vehicles coming in. There's a big mechanical yard on the far left-hand side of this with some big mechanical equipment. So we've tried to zone all of that back of house space off on the left-hand side of the building. You have the cafeteria. The media center in the middle was described in the educational specifications as the heart of the school. So we placed it in the middle of the school with really easy access from the academic pods coming down from above. And we placed a couple of courtyards there to drive some natural light into the middle portion of the building, the deepest, darkest part of the building. Over on the far right-hand side, there's some specialty classrooms. We have the family consumer science, wood shop, a technology lab, and the art room are all over on that side of the building. And then inboard, where you see the auditorium, we've grouped programmatically all the music spaces. So the band room, the orchestra room, and the choral room are all grouped right around that auditorium. So they'll have easy access to the stage and the auditorium for rehearsals and performances. Moving up one level, we have the second floor, and this is where all the academic pods happen. So the middle school teaming strategy is really important to delivering the curriculum. And we spent quite a bit of time talking with school staff as to how we could best set up each of the teams. So what you see here is on the far right-hand side is the sixth grade team. Sixth grade pod, which actually has two teams. So the 4 classrooms and a science lab make up a team, and then there's a whole bunch of support spaces that are sprinkled into each of the pods. The 7th grade pod is in the middle, 8th grade on the left. These are almost identical, so we could actually interchange those fairly easily. The 6th grade could be in the middle, flip-flop that around. We tried to provide as much flexibility in the future as possible with the parity amongst the pods. The other thing I'll mention too is the floor captain suite in between each of those pods. So there will be a vice principal located in that blue space in the floor captain suite, and then a whole bunch of support staff. So social worker, school psychologist, and many of those other support roles are located up in this area as close to the students as we could get them. To create familiarity and comfort amongst the students, being able to see and talk to a lot of those specialists. Now, moving outside the building, I think a lot of you have seen the character as it's been developing. The site itself is very natural. It feels very park-like. And some of the natural characteristics that struck us as we started designing the school were some of the rock outcroppings, the trees, the wide open spaces with the athletic field. And we're trying to replicate that. So we've selected some building materials that we think fit very well into the site. So on this facade, which is actually a view that a parent would have as they approach coming up that parent loop. So as they get to the building, the main entry is really evident. It's a 2-story element on the far right-hand side. And we've introduced stone and wood-like cementitious panels across the entire building, so that wood and stone feel brings a real warmth to the architecture, and it fits really well into the neighborhood and the natural characteristics of that site. We think it's very contextual and fits really well. And some of our neighbor meetings, we've gotten some really good feedback from them. And then getting a little bit closer as we work our way. So if a student was dropped off a little bit away from the building, this would be their path. So you'd walk right up the sidewalk, and the front main entry is very evident. You begin to get a hint of that canopy that would provide some cover going into the building or coming out of the building at the end of the day. In the case of rain, students can actually sit outside and wait for their parent and their ride. And then in this one, I think you get a little better view of the gymnasium over on the far right-hand side. And what we're anticipating for that kind of secondary public entry over on the left-hand side, you can see the glass vestibule where the brown wood-like material ends just before the stone material begins on the gymnasium. And then as we get a little bit closer, we were very cognizant of the scale. Middle school children are kind of in between two worlds. It's a tough age to be going through. It's not elementary school. It's not kid-like, and they're not quite to high school. So We think that the materials that we've selected and the scale that we've designed the building to is quite appropriate to the middle school age, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And then stepping back just a little bit, you can begin to get a hint of some of the site aspects. The gate over on the left is actually the path to the play area, the hard surface play area, and doubles as the service area that I had mentioned. So early in the morning, garbage trucks will be able to safely pass up through that area, do what they need to do, and then once they're done, that all gets gated off. So we're very cognizant of the fact that, you know, we need to create this safe environment, and to be able to partition things off and layer security right from out at the road and coming all the way onto the site, we felt was really, really important. And then working up around the back of the building, you can see I alluded to the 1-story nature of the academic pods. So it has a much smaller scale. These walls are only 14 feet high, and it's going to have a nice, wonderful feel on the backside of the building. We're right up as close to the woods as we can get on the north side of the site, and we're anticipating some outdoor learning areas here. So, you know, a teacher can bring an entire class out into these areas. We're going to try to reuse some of the trees that are being taken down on the site and turn them into park-like furniture, benches, and really kind of create those small outdoor learning areas that we had talked about early on with the Board of Ed. And then this is just a view from the bus entry over on Orchard. And I think it gives you a good scale of the building. This is the one area that has a really, really good view of the residential area. There's a couple of 2-story houses directly across the street at Orchard. And we've made an effort to try to keep the scale of this building down in height wise. And you can see how the materials kind of work and fit into the natural characteristics. And then stepping back just a little bit, this is just a view from across the bus lane. And I think it gives you a good idea of how nicely that building fits back into the slope with the backdrop of the existing trees and some of the scale that I was talking about. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Tim, I think.
No, I think this is Jim
Oh,
online.
yeah. Oh,
I can
Jim
take
online.
it from here.
Sorry.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll be talking about upcoming events really from here on to December, our construction start date. If you can go on to the next slide, that'd be great. One thing I do want to mention is that we are slightly under budget at this point. We did quite a comprehensive value management process over the winter, and that resulted in us again being slightly under budget on our construction costs. So here we are today, May 1st. We have our 6th community engagement meeting. We did have our first P&Z meeting yesterday afternoon, late afternoon into the early evening. Had good dialogue, some good conversation with P&Z and the design team. We're going to be incorporating some of those comments and answering some of the questions from P&Z and get that back to them for a anticipated May 14th P&Z meeting. From there, we anticipate the drawings to be complete by June 7th. And from early June to mid-July, we're going to give those drawings to our local officials, which would be the building official, the fire marshal, the health, the health official and the 504 official for their local review. So they'll review the documents, make comments, and give them back to the architect. Now, if you'll bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to skip over June 10th to June 14th, and I will come back to that after I go through the remaining dates. So after the local review, we will have comments from the various town officials. SLAM will review those comments, incorporate them into the documents, and then we will return back to the local officials for verification that those comments have been incorporated into the documents. And we anticipate that late July to early August. And then from, again, late July to the beginning of August, we're going to be preparing for our plan completion review, the PCR meeting with the state. And this is the meeting that we have to go through in order to make sure that we receive our funding from the state. The state will review the documents and make comments and get them back to the design team for incorporation of those comments, similar to what the process that we're going to be going through with the local review. Once that is complete in mid-August, we will prepare the construction documents and get them ready for bidding. And then from August to October, we're going to be bidding and performing scope reviews. November, Turner will be finalizing contracts with subcontractors, and we anticipate to start construction in December. So heading back to June 10th to 14th, we are planning on doing another or a preliminary PCR to purchase long lead items such as electrical equipment and mechanical equipment. And we're targeting certain specific items for an early bid package. And in order to do that, we have to go through the PCR process with the state. It's not as intense as with the overall project. However, it is another step that we have to take and ensure that we get the equipment that we need when we need it to make sure that the construction process moves along on time and smoothly. So with that, I'm going to move on to Tim Kleps, and he can talk about site logistics.
All right, thank you, Jim. So as we head towards the start of construction in December, we are also looking at how we're putting together the site logistics and phasing plans that'll take place once we go under construction. So I'd like to spend a few minutes and I'll show the group here a couple of plates that show the overall phasing of the project. So the project has two major phases, as Jim Hoagland had said earlier. The first is the building of the new instructional building in the current fields. The second phase, major phase, is the demolition, the removal of the existing school, and then the building of the fields in that location. In addition to those phases, there are several sub-phases. So again, tonight I'm going to go through two plates. There are actually developed right now 9 plates of logistics and phasing plans to take advantage of summer recess when the students are not in school, and we have the opportunity to do a little bit further work towards that area. These logistics plans and phasing plans that I'm going to go through are put together to be able to be a visual tool, to be able to communicate not only to our subcontractor partners who are going to bring on the project, but also to the school administration and staff, the students, and the surrounding community. These are put together, again, based on working on a campus with active students. Again, something that's done traditionally. It's done very regularly throughout the state, and not only in school construction, but also at colleges, at hospital work. So again, it's something that Turner, SLAM, CSG, and JLL are very familiar with, and something we do quite often. These are also put together to make sure that we're maintaining the safety of the staff and the students and the community that surround the work. So just quickly, I'm going to go through some brief highlights on this particular floor, on this particular plate for phase 1, which is the building of the new instructional building. So the first is the fence and the access gates. So as you can see surrounding our site, around the perimeter, we do have 6-foot driven fence to be able to separate our operations from the operations of the school and the community. We will also be using proposed the ultimate entry of the bus loop and the curb cut at that location and the exit of the bus loop. So we'd like to, again, use those two locations is what we're proposing today to be able to enter and exit for this particular phase. Construction traffic, at this point, we are proposing that we come up Sandwich Road. We follow Sandwich all the way over to Orchard, and we take that right-hand turn. We take the right-hand turn into the site. We take a right-hand turn out. Again, maintaining all right-hand turns, which is the ultimate strategy for the buses once they start bringing students to this school. What that also does is by taking those right-hand turns and going around the campus, it also allows us to maintain separation from the current curb cuts that are the parent drop-off and the bus drop-off for the school today. I have a note on here for prohibited deliveries. One thing that we do during drop-off and pick-off times is we ensure that there are no deliveries, no construction deliveries. So construction traffic is held at a minimum during those time periods. And also, I have down here restricted times for noise. We have already received the testing schedule from the school. We've built that into our overall master schedule to be able to avoid noisy operations, again, to avoid as much conflict as we can and impact the school operations while we're building the new school. A couple other things to note on here are the yellow dots that you see here. There are 4 of them. Those are here to be able to have construction lighting and surveillance. So we'll have 24-hour surveillance of the site to ensure that we are consistently watching the site, but also we'll have time-lapse photography to be able to watch the building operation happen, be able to share that video with staff and students, again, should they want to use that in their classrooms. But again, it's a safety and security measure that we put on all of our projects. Rock removal, an item that a lot of people have questioned and are asking about. There is rock removal in both phases of the construction. In this particular phase, right over on the western side of the site, is the area of the greatest amount of rock removal. This is where we are going to be taking out a good portion of that rock to be able to fit this portion of the building into the existing ledge that's in that area. Questions have come up, again, the method of what is the method of rock removal? Right now, we do not have that answer. Again, there are multiple methods. There's scraping, there's jackhammering, there's chemical splitting, and then there's, of course, blasting. Full transparency here in Greenwich. Again, we are aware that in Greenwich, the rock tends to be very hard. The other methods are not the preferred methods, and we do use blasting. As you'll notice, that is in the closest proximity to the existing school. So this will be done with a specialty contractor under an engineered blasting protocols and plans with vibration monitoring and all the necessary protocols in place, likely very low charges, something that, again, will be very lightly felt to be able to split that rock, to be able to remove it in that particular area. Protection of the existing building. So again, just calling out a couple things here. Where we are closest to the existing building is right here in this little green area. As I said, the blue is a 6-foot site fence. In this green area, we have called out and proposed extending that to 12 to 15 feet with debris netting. We have also included as an emergency exit at this point, overhead protection. So almost like a sidewalk bridge will be put in this place here to be able to protect staff and students should they need to evacuate and use that emergency exit. And also what we call out a distance to be maintained between that at that location. And then finally on this plate, one of the summer phases, as I said, there are many sub phases. So over the summer of 2025, for those that are in the area, will see us branching outside of this fence line. There is a sanitary line that needs to be brought straight down here and connect over on Indian Rock Lane. So we'll be doing that over the summer of 2025. So you'll see some temporary construction fencing going up there on feet for us to be able to perform that work. The other thing over 2025 is we will be attempting to get into the newest addition of the existing building, as well as the gymnasium, to try to get ahead of some of the abatement work that needs to happen within those spaces. Moving on to the next major phase, which is phase 2. Again, calling out, without going through the detail, you'll see the construction fence that separates us from the now active school. You'll see we will be using the existing curb cuts to be able to enter our site for construction traffic. Our route here will again be coming up Orchard. We'll be taking this right-hand turn and then taking the left into the site, again, maintaining separation between construction traffic and what will then be the student, our parent and bus drop-off that comes off of here on Orchard Street. We'll again have prohibited deliveries. We again have lighting and surveillance to be able to safety and security to watch the site. In this phase, there is also rock removal. This is the phase where we will be removing the rock outcropping. That again will require rock removal in that area. And then there are a couple sub phases here to mention. The one, as I said earlier in the summer of 2025, we do intend to try to come in here and get some of the early abatement done. Again, there is very limited in this particular building because it is the newest addition. But we want to use the summer of 2026 to be able to fully demolish this building and do the site work and hardscape, which is that outdoor hard surface play area that Jim Hoagland had talked about earlier. and it allows us to finalize the fire lane that goes around the building. If we can, again, the intention is to do that over the summer, have that available when students and staff come back. That is open and able to be used. At this particular time, there is a period of time where buses and parent drop-off will coexist. Again, the thought is potentially using that fire lane for the buses and or parent drop-off for a short period of time. That short period of time is when we are then coming over to take down the existing gymnasium. This is an older portion of the building. There is a little bit more abatement work. The flooring needs to be removed in this area in order to get to some of the materials that we need to abate. So this will take us a little bit longer to get the abatement process done. But again, prioritizing this area here to be able to take the gymnasium down. And again, hardscape, landscape to be able to open up the parent drop-off to get, our fence will get pulled back along that driveway, and then we'll be isolated just where the field work is, completing the demolition, the abatement, and then working on the fields. Again, while the parent drop-off is open, the bus loop is open, everybody's acting and operating per the final plans without the use of the fields until those are complete. Final construction completion is in December of 2027, currently planned. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to, is this you, Tony, or the committee on the far end?
I want to make just a couple of comments before we introduce our safety panel. One of the key pieces of information we want to be able to, or want to be sure to communicate to everyone here tonight and those in our online listening audience is, I hope one of the takeaways that you've seen so far is how well thought out this transition is going to be between phase 1 and phase 2. And then secondly, the vision of how safe things, or at least the safety plan, has been well thought out and in coordination with Tom Healy and his team. I reflect back on the time when we were interviewing companies for construction manager at risk. And one of those criteria was, what experience did you have, if any, regarding building a new school very close in proximity to an existing school and then demolishing that school afterwards. And Turner Construction demonstrated a tremendous amount of experience in that. I hope you'll see that you're seeing tonight that that's coming through. And we've been able to leverage that. And one of the things that we want to do going forward is with our future community engagement meetings is to continue to unfold the more details of the safety plan as they come along. Next up, I want to introduce our parent safety panel. We're very, very lucky on the committee. The person sitting to my immediate left, no one knows him. Tom Healy, the school principal. Tom has kids here at Central Middle. The other three panelists either have had kids here, or they've had kids in Greenwich Public Schools, or in Christina Posh's case, she's got 2 coming to Central Middle School. Now, they may be a few years away, but they're on their way. The point being, on the committee, every time we meet, we have parents that are looking through the lens of safety on this particular project. And they're going to pick it up from here. Our lead on this is Steph Cowie, who is also our RTM rep on the building committee. So Steph, it's all yours.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. As Tony said, I am the RTM rep, but I also serve as the first Selectman Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities liaison as well. And I have prior experience on building committees with Cardinal Stadium and GHS Vestibule. So for those that don't know either, I am or was a former GHS and CMS PTA president. Before I begin, we would like to take this quick time to thank Tony, our chair, Tony Turner, for his service to this committee. We're very appreciative of his time and dedication. So thank you, Tony. So I'm going to introduce the panel, but before I do that, I'm going to give you a quick idea about why we're doing this. So as Tony mentioned, we're going to come back to you. This is our second time with the community forum, and we're going to continue to come back to you as the phasing and all these different time periods continue. So this is not the last time you'll see us. This is actually our second time, but we will focus on safety, communications, and specifically through Tom Healy and holding of the school. I'd like to introduce now my person to the left, Claire Kilgallen, and she can say to my right, sorry, and Christina Pocha and Tom Healy, you can introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Claire Kilgallen. I live in Byram. I was on the New Lebanon Building Committee, and I was also a president there twice. Happy to be here and to support this project.
Hi, my name is Christina Pocha. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Thank you. I am a parent. I have two very young children who will be coming to Central Middle School. I'm very happy to be a part of this project. This is my first building committee that I've ever been on in Greenwich or in any district. But I am happy to be here. I come with an architecture, construction, and project management background. I worked on a number of projects throughout too many years to count because I'd give you my age. And so I'm very happy to be here and give my perspective from both professional and from being a mom.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Healy. I am still the principal of Central Middle School. This is also my first building committee and adds to the long list of things that I do that were not taught in principal school. With that being said, it has been a great experience for me to be an active part of this group. I have to say that I have been very much involved and have had a lot of input, and my input has been sought. We've engaged the community, as was mentioned earlier. I went back and looked because I couldn't remember when we started this, but I found my first email referencing EdSpecs in March 16th of 2022. So I'm over 2 years into this project. You know, I'm feeling very good about the spot we are in. Hopefully, many of you had a chance to either listen to the Board of Ed meeting the other night or Planning and Zoning meeting from yesterday. There is a resounding amount of support for this current project and the final site plan as it is presented now. We certainly have things that we're continuing to work through to get to the end of the process. But as you can see, a great deal of thought has been put into the project, and we're very excited to see it move forward. Internally, I will say that it meets all of the needs of our students, both present and future. It stays true to the model of education that we know is critical for students aged 10 to 14. It provides a great deal of opportunity for collaboration, for innovation, for problem solving, for resiliency, and everything else. So we are very excited about how the building will operate for us. But as we also know, this is a building that does get used by the community, and that has been a thoughtful part of the planning as well. As Tim was discussing all of the planning for construction, I was just thinking how wonderful it would be if all days in middle school were as well planned as that. But those of us who work with middle schoolers know that it's never like that. So I'm very excited to work with Tim and his team and everybody else who will be on site daily doing their job. I know we've discussed the fact that we will be having regular meetings to understand what is happening, not only in the larger phases of the project, but obviously on a weekly and a daily basis so that we can plan accordingly. I get along very well with everybody on this committee, so our conversations are very frequent and very positive and very collaborative. So I am expecting that it will be a good experience for all of us. To that end, the families of Central will also obviously need to be up to date. So I will be keeping regular communication with our PTA. As Steph mentioned, an alumnus of the CMS PTA. I see some current enrollees in our PTA here as well. Leadership, I've always had a great experience with them. And, you know, through our collaborative communication, we will make sure parents have the information they need. Clearly, as an example, when we are doing buses and cars in the same area for a short period of time, we will have a plan for that. It would be great if the parents followed the plan. They have sometimes as much problem as their kids following the plan, but we'll do our best there. We're all human and have places to go. But with that being said, obviously the biggest thing that we're really dealing with is operating our school in a way that will allow for our students education to continue with the least amount of interruption. That is first and foremost my concern and the concern of my staff. That is why I'm glad we're already talking about noise and blasting and timing and all of those things. Furthermore, it's an opportunity for us. We've had conversations on the side, and we will as we get closer to figure out how we can bring some of these professionals in to talk to our students about what they are doing, what their jobs are, what inspired them to become what they are today, and how that may inspire our students for potential future opportunities. We have a innovation spaces. We have a technology wood shop. I actually was talking to my technology teacher before planning and zoning meeting yesterday, and he was getting excited about looking at the plans and using SketchUp. He's like, we do this in class. So all of these are great opportunities for our kids whose lives will be unique at a time when all of this is happening, but also unique in a way that can be very advantageous for them. We're getting good at evacuating our building and learning in like cafeterias and auditoriums, but I'd prefer not that to be the norm. So I know that we are going to be very cautious about how things happen, when things happen, and the monitoring of the status of the current building. I say that jokingly, but obviously it's a very serious thing. Student safety is paramount, and both times that we had to be out of this building, it was done out of an abundance of caution, and it was the right decision at the time. I felt very confident about the way the professionals were brought in: Board of Education, safety, fire, police, building inspectors, civil engineers, structural engineers, everybody else. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, and nobody would put anybody in harm's way. So I know that's going to be a continued theme through this entire project, and you know, it will never not be on our minds. You know, obviously school safety is discussed, you know, daily these days from all different angles, and this is no different. So it's just a matter of staying collaborative with our team and making sure that we have eyes on everything. Furthermore, you know, we want to, as I said, make this a seamless opportunity for our parents. So this is really all about staying open and transparent. As I mentioned, I will be very much communicating with our family community, and I know that the amount that I work with the building committee, they will make sure that messages get out to the local community as well in our neighborhood. We've had an excellent relationship with our immediate neighbors. We have opened the building a few times to have them come in and have conversations and walk the area. And those conversations will continue. We like to keep the relationships that we have, whether they be the church across the street or the residential areas, the neighborhood organizations, and the businesses that also get a lot of traffic and support from us here. We want to keep the thriving nature of this community throughout this entire project. So I feel very good about the plans we have in place, but I know that we are going to be staying in constant contact and communication in order to make sure that everybody's lives go on as best as they possibly can and our students thrive.
Thank you, Tom. And you've taken all of my questions for you. But hey, Tom, can you tell me if Dr. Jones will be handling any wide, district communications, not just to the Central Middle School community?
Yes, I would expect that in addition to what I send out to my families here at Central, there will also be GPS notes and updates that will go out. And then obviously through the building committee's communications and posting on the website, there will be things available to those who are in the area, but not actually within the Greenwich Public Schools community.
And I have another question to keep those in the same vein. About Central Middle School project, that if you're in the general public and you don't have any children in the district, how could they find out information? And I'm going to push that to Claire.
So we have a lot of information on our website, and it is through the Greenwich Public Schools website, but we can make it shorter for you. It's on all of our reports. It's greenwichschools.org/CMSBC, standing for Central Middle School Building Committee. And we have reports that we have on that site that are quarterly to the RTM. They're a bit drier, but our communications subcommittee is putting together some bulletins that are going to be more infographic-like or short bites. And then when we get into the construction, our professional team will be leading the preview of what's coming up in the next month or so. What we did, we're going to follow probably the model we did with New Lebanon, which is a monthly drop on a set date that gets pushed out through press channels like we do for all of these meetings.
Another question that came up is staying in place and building at the same time a typical process that you find in the industry? And I'll first pass it to Christina and then to Claire, because I know there'll be a follow-up.
Yes, I think this is one of the most common things happening right now is we want to make sure not to disrupt the school. So I think keeping it in place while we build right next to it provides a really great education for our students. I know for me, we had Bring Your Kids to Work Day last week, which was awesome. If we build a school right next to an operational school, it's Bring Your Kids to Work Day every day. So I'm very much in favor of this, and it's a very common practice. I think the kids will get a kick out of it, and we partner up with some of the best professional team members to make sure that safety is of the most concern and high priority, and that we will make sure to keep all of our kids very, very safe, separated from any kind of dangerous activity going on. If there's any activity that we could be concerned about, making sure that we separate them from the site. And it's a very common practice.
So I had 2 children who lived through attending New Lebanon while New Lebanon was being built next to the old New Lebanon, like literally right next to it. Like I'm looking at Jenny, she's 4 rows in front of me. And, maybe it wasn't that close, but it might be 8 rows. So it was a great experience for them. I think, Tim, you mentioned earlier the fencing. One of the things that he has shared with us is that there is an opportunity for the children to look out, but the construction guys can't look in. It's a one-way. That's so awesome for the kids to be able to have these appropriate lookout spaces so that they're not, and that's why they added the height. But it's a great experience for them to have that look, and the cameras that they're talking about. I know for New Lebanon, we had similar, and they could see real time or sped up, like when you watch a flower go from seed to flower, they can see that kind of stuff as collective as time goes on. Great experience. They really felt a part of it. And I know that the construction team will make it a part of their experience as well as a student.
Thank you. Are there any concerns of additional health of the staff or students due to the build? And how are those concerns monitored typically or with environmental dust and noise? And I'll pass it to Christina.
And Tim can back me up on this, but we have a health and safety officer that they're going to contract with and make sure that they are that everything's done very safely on the site, and that there's reports and there's constantly walking around and making sure that everybody's complying. So it is a very important factor, and Tim will make sure that it's staffed properly to make sure that all of our health and safety concerns are met.
Thank you. Tom, what is the cadence again about how much you will be meeting with Turner Construction when the phases begin?
I would expect it would be at least weekly. I would assume something like even maybe a Monday morning meeting in order to look at what the rest of the week is going to be. And then obviously as needed, if anything else needs to be shorter term or interim. So we haven't quite set that out yet, but I know from speaking with other colleagues who have gone through different projects with professionals on site, that typically is the way to do it.
Thank you. And another one for you about an update on the usage of the Central Middle School fields currently and what you see them to be in the evolution of the phasing.
So currently we are working to get our fields up and operational based on some of the work that had been done to get some tests back on the site. We needed to reinstall some sod. So currently we are working to get our fields up and operational for this spring season. I do have to shout out, because she's here, Nancy Tarantino, my sports director, who has put in a tremendous amount of work and effort into getting our kids out and playing. And it's extremely important for them to not only have that opportunity but to feel that. And she has done just an amazing job getting our kids playing, even though we're not quite on our own field yet. Our hope is to be able to get through this spring season, and it looks like, based on the new timeline, the fall season as well, which is only going into sort of the middle of October. on our current fields. And then we are going to be using a off-siting plan that will sort of mirror what Western has had to do for the last number of years with not having their fields available. And if we time everything right, perhaps we will just be inheriting some of the things that they've been doing in places they've been using in order to allow for our students to still have that sports experience, even though we won't have access to our fields. But while I'm on that too, I did just also want to mention again, there's a lot of discussion about the rock outcropping out front. If you heard the discussion that we had, the final site plan does have full removal of that rock so that we have access to the full complement of fields that is required for us to have our PE curriculum and our full sports offerings and programming that is required, as well as what the town offers. You heard already that the town uses 1,600 hours of time on the field. That rock really does provide an impediment to allowing us to have access to fields. And anyone who has children who are in youth sports know that fields are at a premium here. Furthermore, right now, the only thing the rock serves for is an opportunity for us to tell kids to get down at the end of the day who continue to try to climb it every day. And while that's fun, it's, not really necessary. So it is a nice feature, natural feature, but really it does provide a safety hazard, and as many people have heard. So that is the way that we're moving.
Tom, one more thing for you. What about the tiles? Some people have asked about that question, and we had one of those last night at PNC.
So I have a tile. Just want everyone to know I can empathize with those people who want their tiles. I know that SLAM has had our interior folks come by and document all of the tiles that are up. Unfortunately, the idea that every tile will be able to be removed and reinstalled in the new building or even taken home is extremely unlikely. So the goal would be to honor that history and honor that project and honor those decades and students by photographing it and figuring out a way to make that visible in the new building somehow. So we have a couple of different ideas that we've discussed. I don't know that we've landed on a final one, but we do want to honor the projects visually, which is the best way to go. And again, I would love it if everyone could take their tile home. It would be even better if they could buy it, but I think they're probably just going to go with the building.
That will be the fundraiser of 2024. So be prepared. September. I actually have one for Claire because I know she's been involved in this, but this goes to Maria's garden that is right in front of the rock that we're asking to be removed for safety. And we'd like to hear about the new arrangements and what's been done.
I'm just going to do a quick PSA first. So everybody who's watching and here tonight, please use the QR code and send in your questions so we can answer some of them live. And the remainder that we can't get to tonight will go into a document. And I'm sure Tony will give the wrap up on that. So to the question, so Maria Ferreri, CMS student, the tradition of her garden is beloved, and it was very important that we keep it and honor it in the future. And it's going to be a new Maria's garden near the entrance of the new school. And we are partnering with her parents and her siblings to get some of their vision to continue to honor her. So we're looking forward to that collaboration.
Thank you. That's my last question. And I'm going to turn it back to Tony.
Are we going to the next, next steps? There we are. Okay, good. Thank you. Next steps. I want to be sure to highlight to the community the 4 or 5 key things that, well, we're probably, I started to say 4 or 5 key things we're focused on. We're probably focused on 450 key things. But the major milestones going forward for us, as you heard earlier from Jim Giuliano, the 4 or 5 things to take away is right now we're very, very focused on wrapping up with planning and zoning with the final site plan application. We had that meeting yesterday. Hopefully we only have 1 more to go, two maximum. So we continue to look at local regulatory approval. Secondly, coming up shortly will be an update session with the state regarding our state grant application for the project. Very soon, we're going to be finishing construction documents. And when that is completed and we once again reconcile pricing with our professionals, then midsummer to late summer, we'll be able to go out for bids. Those bids will come in with the view that we begin construction in December. So those are the big ones, so to speak. But you'll have on the recording of this particular session tonight, you'll have the Construction Solutions Group schedule that Jim Giuliano did a great job of covering before. I have a few closing remarks, but before I do that, as Claire mentioned, please send in your questions. Use the Mentimeter QR code. Be you in the listening audience or in the room. We would like to get as many questions from you as possible because, again, we're here for you. Just a couple of wrap-up comments. We've had in the building committee what I think is just a phenomenal story of what we've been able to do in almost 2 years. We started with nothing but a blank piece of paper, and you can see today that not only have we gone through the entire funding challenge and receiving full funding for the school, just over $112 million, but here we are 2 years later with a great run. We continue to be on time. We continue to be under budget. And in this day and age, if you're under budget after 2 years on a $112 billion project, I promise you, you're doing okay. So we're very proud of that. And I think it's safe to say, too, that the things that the committee has had under our control is we have executed flawlessly along the way. We've been thrown some curveballs along the way. We've had challenges, but we've always been able to find a positive and partnering solution with that. We have a good brand in Town Hall. We've worked very, very hard to build and maintain relationships with all the department heads, all of the constituents, all the parents, all the neighbors, and of course the community overall. So we have a lot to be proud of, but we also probably have another solid 4 or 5 years of committee work to go. We all signed up for this. We knew it was going to be a 5 to 7 year commitment. We're not quite at the halfway mark yet, but we're rapidly approaching that. So I hope that when you see your committee members either later tonight when we adjourn or just as we go about living our life in town, to be sure to say thank you to the committee members for all the time that they've put in. And one last item, and I'm going to flip it over to Steve to see if he has any questions that have come in. But one last item, again, please use the Mentimeter. And also on your screen now is the GPS website. I'd like to echo what Claire said earlier about the website. There's a tremendous amount of information there. Not only can you see the evolution of the project, but more importantly, there's a section called Related Documents. All of our environmental surveys and inspections and drillings that we've done, everything is there. There's probably 25, if not 30 different documents from a variety of vendors that we've had the contract with along the way. And every time we get a new document, we post it there for you. The other thing I would like to highlight on the website is the building does exceed, this is very important, the building does exceed Connecticut high performance building standards from a energy efficiency standpoint. And the specific details about the building exceeding those standards, there's a document. It has its own tab on the website. We would urge you to take a look at that to get a very up close and personal sense of exactly how the building will be energy efficient. There's a lot of information there. So before we adjourn, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen and see if he has any questions that we could maybe get a few out of the way. Though it is 8:09, we should wrap up soon.
There's a handful of construction questions, I think, Tim, that you'll be able to answer pretty quickly. One early question was, when do you anticipate that construction will be completed?
So final construction completion will be in December of 2027. Completion of the new instructional building, again, based on the current intended start date in mid to late December of this year. The school will be ready for the 26-27 school year.
Another one is, what is the expected period of time when the parent drop-off will share the bus loop once the school opens, but before the existing gym is torn down?
So again, based on the return of staff and students for the 26-27 school year, the expected time, again, we will go after the gymnasium as soon as they dismiss for summer recess in June. That work is expected to take place through end of September, mid-October. So it would be approximately 6 weeks that they would share that same entrance point.
One other quick one. Once the ledge and rock are blasted, will you use that material for drainage and reuse for cost savings?
So for the rock outcropping, let me start with that same question, but in phase one. The rock removal in phase one, there is currently planned for on-site crushing for reuse of that material. Phase one is a net import site. So we will be raising the grade in phase one for the new building. Phase two is a net export. So the rock outcropping material, if there is material that can be used, it will be reused. But there will be export of on-site material and import of structural material for under hardscape areas.
Those are some of the quick, easy ones from a construction standpoint.
Okay, thank you. And again, we'll continue to keep Mentimeter open for some time tonight.
I think we're leaving it open for 24 hours.
24 hours. Okay. Oh, all the better. So with that in mind, please continue to send in your questions later tonight, tomorrow, whatever the case may be, because again, we do want to hear from you. And we've always answered every question, regardless of the level of difficulty or the level of sensitivity. So please send those along. Okay, it is 8:12. The chair is going to move that we adjourn. Christina Posha seconds that. It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
For those that came in this evening after the sign-up sheet went in, would you mind signing in, please? Thank you. Or signing out. How about that?